important topic of today's time, which is about synergies between the real estate and the allied industry. So we have a session on revival of supply chain and projects delivery, and now I would like to invite the speakers of this panel. First of all, let me introduce the moderator of the session, Mr. Anil Haldipur, Director Project Management Group, CBRE South Asia Private Limited. Mr. Haldipur is a civil engineer with more than 30 years of real estate experience in project management, operations management, and quality management, and has been associated with various types of projects across the construction sector. So a very expert speaker who we have as a moderator. Let me now introduce our speakers of the session in an alphabetical order. First of all, let me welcome Mr. Ayush Bagla, Executive Director, Sarah Sanitary Ware Limited. Mr. Bagla has been involved in capital markets, investment banking, and merger and acquisitions for last 23 years now. And he is also part of the board of directors and is involved in investor relations, equity value creation, and capital allocation. In fact, he will be presenting the views of the industry. Another expert speaker who will be expressing the views of the allied sector is Mr. Jinal Palkiwala. He's the director in Mobile Doors. The company in Mobile has been manufacturing modular office and home furniture, hotel furniture, doors, windows, and kitchens. And Mr. Jinal has been extending his business and diversifying in the fields of architecture, construction, and turnkey projects now. Mr. Palkiwala, a very warm welcome to you. Another expert panelist on our panel is Mr. Nirav Parmar, Senior Vice President, Contracts and Procurement, Shapoorji Pallonji Real Estate. Mr. Parmar, again, he is also a civil engineer. He is also LLB and LLM. He is the immediate past National Secretary of Builders Association of India, and he is the past Senior Vice President of Indian Institution of Technical Arbitrators. Mr. Parmar, thanks for being here with us today. Our next speaker of this session is Parth Patel, Managing Director, Kavisha Group. The young and dynamic Parth Patel, he is in fact engineer from prestigious CEPT University as well as an MBA, and he has been leading Kavisha Group, a privately held construction firm since 1999 in Ahmedabad. Parth Patel, thanks for being here with us. A very warm welcome. Now, the most seasoned expert and a real estate developer from Gujarat, we have Mr. Sameer Sinha, Managing Director, Savvy Infrastructure Private Limited. He's extremely passionate about sustainability and technology, and he's also the chairman of Indian Green Building Council in Ahmedabad. In fact, under Mr. Sameer Sinha's leadership, Savvy is today the undisputed leader in green building development in Gujarat. So a very versatile panel that we have today to discuss this topic. Mr. Haldipur, I hand it over to you to take forward the conversation.
Thanks, Sapna. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Sapna. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anil Haldipur. I'm part of the CBRE project management team. I'm glad to be part of this conclave for Gujarat edition by Realty Plus. The theme of this year's conference is Atmanirbhar Gujarat, Realty's Recovery and Revival Mode. And in this, we are in the third panel discussion that we have. The topic of the discussion that we have is revival of supply chain and projects delivery. We all have seen that since March 22nd, when the country went into lockdown mode, there has been a significant impact on the projects which were ongoing across the country. And the impact that we have seen is multifold, but two major impact points that we see is cost and time. So in terms of cost, that we have seen that overall project cost, which are the projects which are ongoing, we have seen that depending upon the project location, in which geography the project is, at what stage the project was in, we have seen that the overall cost of construction, there is an increase from anywhere between 3 to 6% is the estimated cost of construction increase, rise in the cost. Similarly, in terms of a timeline, we are seeing that the project delays are being calculated anywhere in the range of 5 to 7 months delays there going to be there in terms of ongoing projects. So developers and project managers and suppliers are trying to mitigate these challenges and try to see how this situation can be revived so that the forthcoming opportunities are targeted well and the projects which were ongoing are brought on track. So we have got panel speakers here with us, and I would like to start my discussion with Parth and Samir, who are coming from developer fraternity and leading developers in Ahmedabad. So I will start with Samir. So Samir, would you like to give your view on what is the impact on the projects which were your projects ongoing in Gujarat region? What is the impact that you have seen in terms of time and cost? And what is it that you have done to mitigate those challenges and bring the projects on track? Samir. Samir, you're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, Samir, I can.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Anil. It's a pleasure to be here on this panel. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with such illustrious people on the panel here. And thanks to Realty Plus for making this happen. I think in these times of COVID, post-COVID scenario, this is the best that we can do. And the more that we interact and more that we talk to each other, the better we feel, at least. Then there's not much we can do in terms of the real scenario, but at least it makes us feel better that we're able to communicate. In terms of the impact, I think there has been a lot of impact. I don't know if real estate has been getting impacted for the last 5-7 years, I think, regularly. We had demonetization, and then we had GST, and then we had RERA, then we had the entire NPFC scenario, and now COVID. So I think we've become a very resilient and a very robust and a very healthy industry because we've been taking on so much. COVID has been obviously extremely, it's something that nobody was prepared for. And the impact is huge. But I feel the impact is more on the sentiment and the emotionality than on the reality of the whole supply chain or the procurement strategy. There was a temporary hold where the entire country was in lockdown, so nobody could do anything about it. But what we really need to recover from is this whole lull or the emotional setback that we have gone through in terms of the market sentiment, in terms of the sentiment of the developers. And that would be will take a little more effort than what we are going through right now. In terms of the impact on the procurement strategy or in the cost, yes, there has been an impact, though I feel that is not something that cannot be mitigated. The biggest impact I see is in the terms of the cash flow impact, not so much on the cost of the project, though there has been a delay of a few months. We have been fortunate in Gujarat, or specifically in Ahmedabad, that our labor force has not been impacted that badly because we are not dependent on out of state, 100% dependent on out of state labor only. So we have a lot of local labor. We have local labor from Rajasthan, Godhra, Gujarat, within Gujarat also. So we have been not that badly impacted in terms of the labor. But the way in the future, the way I look at it in the coming months, or probably a year or so, we will have to rework our relationships with our contractors and our vendors to be able to, they need to become more engaged. We need to engage more with them and make them, they are our new partners in business, because our contractors will have to be our close friends. We will have to take care of them. Our vendors will have to be more agile. They will have to deliver just in time, probably smaller orders, probably a longer pay period. So that I see as being the biggest strategy that we will have to work on. I don't know if there is going to be any major impact otherwise besides these two areas that I see, which is going to impact our project cost and completion. Fortunately, 2-3 months delay is not too much that we cannot absorb, even in terms of our RERA deadlines or our deadlines to customers. But I think what we really need to reinforce, which is what we did at Savvy as a strategy, was to engage, first of all, with our own team in-house, that we took care of all the employees and the workers at the site, at all the projects, and made sure that everybody was healthy, was safe, and was taken care of. Secondly, as a very robust strategy, we went out and engaged with our existing customers and our potential customers and assured them that we will be back. There is nothing that they need to worry about. All our projects were healthy, were safe, were being taken care of. And the new projects, the new deliveries, we had assured them that they will not be delayed. So I think it is that transparency or commitment to customers which was most critical, that I feel has really paid back, and we have not had any major issues that we cannot deal with in this post-COVID scenario. Of course, the biggest impact I see is on the new project launches, but again, that's a different story, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So Samir, you're saying there has not been any significant impact on the overall construction cost on the projects that you are managing currently, and in terms of a timeline, you are looking at a couple of months delay. Is that it?
Yes, we are looking at a 2-3 month delay, which hopefully we can recover from. The cost impact, like I said, is mainly from the cash flow impact. Whatever cost impact that will have will be an impact. But obviously we are committed to the prices that we have sold at, so we will deliver, and that is the only way forward. But beyond that cash flow impact, I don't see a major cost impact in the terms of procurement or in terms of contracts.
Okay, right. Thanks, Samir. Parth, can we hear your views, please?
Yes, thank you, Anil Bhai. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Realty Plus. It's great to be on the panel right now. As Samir Bhai shared so many points, and I also agree with him. I would say that the cost and the time which is impacted in real estate is majorly based on the situation of the site where it's standing. It is on whether it is on the basement level or the finishing level, or it's just as applied for pan pass or something. So the kind of material is engaged, the kind of service, the kind of agency is engaged in that situation. So I would say that the projects which are on a basement level, starting level, that will have a little impact on the cost and time, because as the agencies including in that particular work is coming from other parts of then Rajasthan, MP and Gujarat. So we are facing some challenges in that. So there may be a cost occurrence, maybe 10 to 12% in that portion. And if it's a project on a finishing level, that we don't have any kind of cost and time challenges in that. It just interest cost which we are facing. That is the basic criteria which we can include in cost incurrence. So maybe we can consider 4 to 5% of interest cost. So which we are supposed to pay to the supplier and the laborers, because even they don't have the money. So once the cycle is not over, once everyone has their own funds, they keep on giving credits. So that is not right now in the market. So we have to put some more money. That is the only thing which we are facing.
Right. Thanks, Parth. Thanks for your views. Now I'll move to Nirav. Nirav, as I understand, you are managing procurement for a large real estate company for their pan-India projects. Now, I would like to understand from you, what were the disruptions that you have noted for supplies of material and equipment on your projects, and how have you managed to mitigate those problems on projects which are ongoing?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I think thanks, Anil, for inviting all of us, and thanks Realty Plus for having a show on this. I think supply chain is a very important aspect with respect to the project delivery and the timelines. And as we say, customer is the focus and timely delivery is important. More important is that we should achieve the milestones. And of course, as Samir Bhai had said very clearly, the cash flow is again linked with the inflow from the customers. So even they are going through this patch where salaries are cut, where things are getting delayed. So that is one aspect out of which is there. And second thing, I think as far as material is concerned, I am not foreseeing any disruption in supply of materials because everything was shut down for 3 months. And in fact, if you look at the other aspect, materials were already lying in either in the warehouses or in the factories about to be dispatched. So those materials are available with them, which has started moving out to the retailers, and that the manufacturers also had the raw materials stacked up for another 1.5 months. So that is not an issue with respect to that. In fact, we are trying to look and work out how we can get better discounts in these tiring times from the manufacturers, because they are also eager to make the more cash available for them. So this is the time, I think, next 3 to 4 months, where we can get better discounts, better pricing for materials. And for that, you need to work out in a different way. Like if I'm talking with respect to tiles, or if I am talking with respect to other aspects, then we need to understand that if you have selected some tiles for a particular project, and those things are not yet taken into a production, then we need to go back to the drawing board, work out what are the tiles available with the developers in order to get a discount, and rework on the design part of it if we have not commenced that production part, I mean the fixing it part. So that is one part. Even with respect to marble, we might have selected different shades of marble, but most of the things which is going to come or which is yet to be imported is stuck up or it's on its way. So I think the marble available in the country is huge as of now. So we need to go to the particular stocks available with them and rework the designs with respect to that. That is one important aspect which is being done. We are also working out on quarterly basis what are our material requirements, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. So accordingly match those requirements with respect to the inventories available with the manufacturers. I think this is a small phase. I think the moment I just heard that all the companies have started manufacturing in a way, but still the production as far as Mobi for tiles is concerned, I think the production level has gone down considerably. They have a labor shortage and not more than 30% labor is there. So output is getting affected. As far as construction sites are concerned, again, there was no consumption during the lockdown. And in Mumbai, specifically where the problems is the restriction of movement. In fact, one of our projects we started very early as end of April under monsoon protection, which BMC had facilitated, and we could start that thing. But only to fulfill the containment conditions is 50% manpower is available at site, and only those workforce was staying at site. So if you look into the entire gamut of all these things, it's like, you know, who moves first. So that disruption with respect to material and supply chain is absolutely not a big issue. Everybody is eager to bring in the material. As Samir Bhai said, the problem is going to be of the cash flow, the incoming money which is going to come. And as you say, labor availability has reduced. And I would also say that the impact of, even though we may underplay it right now, that there is no impact on cost, but let me tell you, the social distancing factors and the other aspects which are need to be followed strictly in the containment zones. And as far as for that has become a new normal, new SOPs have come in place. So with that respect to the productivity level is also going to come down. And the new manpower which is going to come is definitely going to come at a slightly higher price. Skilled labor's demand is going to increase. We are bringing in laborers from other states by spending money and getting them transportation, bringing them back. So that's all is there. So today, you don't have ready-made answers what will be the net thing. I think 6 months down the line, you will know what is that impact. But the productivity impact is definitely going to be there. It's nowhere near to be what it was earlier. I think only how we move on. So in order to offset all those things, we need to work out other strategies with respect to leveraging the production material available with that. And as Samir Bhai said, putting up multiple contractors, I think that is one aspect of it. But again, you are increasing your, liability with so many people. With respect to 1 or 2 contractors, at least you can go ahead with that. So I think it's again a part of a procurement strategy which will vary from company to company and perspective to perspective. I think we have no issues with respect to the supply chain aspect.
Okay, Nirav, one more thing I want you to touch base upon is the current contracts that you have with your contractors and suppliers. Did you face any challenges in administration of those contracts? Were there any issues that you faced? Are you going to be looking at redrafting those documents going forward?
I think one thing I would like to hear specifically mention that yes, contracts, what was written in the document, if you go by the spirit and word of it, then I think you won't be able to perform and your project deliveries will be hampered considerably. Now is the time when you have to step out and give a holding hand to the contractors. Like if you can see, the government came up with force majeure clause. So all the government contractors were very happy, and they are still very happy that they have been all given 6 months extension of time. And as we know that force majeure will have only extension of time. So if you compare government contractors with the private contractors, you will see a sea change, because government contractors cannot go beyond, I mean the government departments cannot go beyond their purview of the force majeure clause, because of they are being governed by the CVC guidelines. And if they do it, it will be a special case, which they will take a special permission for that. But in private contractors case, the contracts have to be viewed in a different manner. You have to take care of the workforce and the contractors with respect to the actual expenditure incurred during the lockdown. That has to be reimbursed as per actual. And mind you, the contractors are also very clear, and both the parties are very clear that there is no profit margin or no motive to earn money out of this. It is a question of survival during the lockdown period and to overcome that. So whatever cost has been incurred with respect to machinery, with respect to manpower, has to be reimbursed, and in the larger interest of the project, and making a good relationship with the contractors going forward. I think even in contracts, I was just talking to one of my senior colleague in our construction arm. So he is also having the same problem. Government, it is very clear they're not giving. Private, some of the developers, as we ourselves being a developer, are giving it, and others who have simply refused not to give, to say it's not our lookout. But here I would like to mention that two government departments, I mean two state governments like Telangana and Bihar, they have at least said, let us discuss. So I think whether what happens, what outcome is a different issue. But at least they have stepped out of the guidelines or out of the contract document. So I think a lot has been said about the force majeure clause. This is not mentioned, that is not mentioned, because nobody, this is an unprecedented event. Nobody had even imagined in the wildest dreams that such things will occur. Henceforth, everybody is very wiser after the event. So in hindsight, I think today there will be lots and lots of consultants who will draft down the force majeure clause to an extent, and to even that extent that you will not have what is to be paid and what is not to be paid. So I think that's a thing which will happen as we move forward. But here I think contracts, as far as the developer is concerned, or even a private client is concerned, you have to be very, very this thing, upfrontly help the contractors, give them the confidence, because it's not their fault, and they cannot be made to suffer for things which is not even beyond their control. If there are various points of arguments, yes, it is not my responsibility, everything is yours, that's good, fine. But if you want to see, if you want to deliver your project, you need to step out and you need to do this. I think that's the thing for, and it's not a huge thing. It's for last 3 or 4 months till you start.
Right. Thanks, Nirav. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Samir, you are working with a different set of contractors. You and Parth both are working with a different set of contractors than probably what Nirav is working with. So in your area in Gujarat, the kind of contractors you are working with, how you have been able to manage the current situation in terms of a documentation, escalation, claims of a contractor? Are there any challenges that you have faced on this? Samir, you can go first, and then
Anil, we have worked with both very large as well as small contractors over the last few years, and our experience has been that the contractors are as good as the relationship that you develop with them. So that has been our experience. We've had extremely good relations with very large firms and even the smaller ones. The advantage that I feel that we've had sometimes working with a smaller local contractor is that they are far more agile and far more quick on their feet to kind of respond to some of the emerging scenarios. And so that has been an advantage. But at the same time, the larger firms have the wherewithal to come up and resolve issues that sometimes the smaller contractors don't. But like I said, the key in our case has been that we have been, like Nirav was saying, we have been able to take care of our contractors like we would take care of our partners. And so they have never felt, there has never been an adversarial relationship. And we've never had to really go back to even refer to our contract in all these years, because that written contract literally means not much when you can talk to them across the table and resolve issues. So we have fortunately never had an issue where we've had to really, so we don't even really, honestly speaking, I don't remember in last 20 years or 25 years that we really had to ever go back to our document to say, this is what was written down and you're not complying with this. So that is one thing. Secondly, I also feel that the contractor has more at stake in our project. I mean, as much in stake as a project as our clients or vendors or our suppliers do. And so they are typically not oriented at making things difficult for us. So as long as our relationship is good, they get their payments on time, they are taken care of, you're fair in terms of the bills and checking and the process that we follow. I don't see that being a major issue. And even in the future, even with large firms or whatever, yes, I do see the point that we would want to be more careful in our documentation and our contracting that we do. But I don't see that becoming a major roadblock for development. And I really don't see ourselves investing too much energy into making legally tighter, watertight contracts for our contractors. I don't think that is not how real estate in Gujarat, or definitely even in India, I don't think that is how it works, because then there is more at risk for both of us if we start doing those kind of things. So no, I don't see that changing. It will have to be more of a give and take relationship. We'll have to both understand each other, be more concerned about, be more considerate about each other. And I in the future, I think we will expect our contractors to be a little more agile, like I said, a little more lean, little more. They'll have to be less wasteful. They'll have to come up with more efficient ways of doing things, and more accurate and more quality conscious. I think those are the key issues that we would expect from even the smaller contractors, because sometimes those can become challenges, and that entire expectation of the client has changed in the last few years from the developer, and so has our relationship with our contractors, because RERA fortunately has changed a lot of those issues, and by just being RERA compliant, you don't need to do a lot more of these contracts and legalities. I think that has been taken care of, fortunately, by this new scenario that we're working under.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. Thanks. Parth, your views on this, on the current contracts and suppliers that we have relationships?
Yes, most of the views are covered by Samir Bhai. I also agree with them. It's always if you see the Gujarat real estate, it's always a mutual thing between a contractor and a builder. So if I could talk about from the builder side, we also see that the health of the contractor does not get bad, or we should help him and each and every stage in terms of some place or some funding or machinery, or each and every aspect. And as far as our construction work is concerned, there is no escalation, or as Samir Bhai said, that there is no point of that we have to discuss on table that this is not in contract, this is there in contract. So we have to do according to our contract. So there is a mutual thing. कई बार तो ऐसा होता है कि सर हमने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट शायद हुआ भी नहीं है, इट द वर्क इज गोइंग ऑन एंड ऑन every site. So there is always a mutual thing.
So purely on the relationships.
Yeah,
that's good. Okay. So Jinal, you are coming from a manufacturing segment and you are providing products for a real estate industry. So during these lockdown times, you also must have faced issues of work stopped at the factory levels and those customers' requirements getting piled up. So how you have been able to manage the delivery expectations from your clients?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Anil. Yes, we did face a lot of issues in the initial days after the startup. We took special permissions from government, post the, specific approvals were given to run the factory. So we started our factory in the last week of May, but we took about more than 1.5 months, clearing of the backlog. The backlog that we had in the month of March being the financial year end, we were always targeting for, completing of more orders and things like that. And a lot of things were in pipeline, and suddenly an abrupt stop of production was, was absolutely not expected. But then once we restarted the production, it took us quite some time. There was a lot of issues with labor. The labor, left in the first week of May. Till then, they were all with us, but the factories did not start operations. So they left in the first week of May, and we started operations in the last week of May. And then we were facing some problems. But by end of July, we could clear all the backlog, and probably by this current month, we are running at our regular schedules, and we can deliver what is the normal standard delivery time frames. We also have a complete labor which is back into operations, and all the migrant laborers have returned back into work.
So you are back at your 100% capacity.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great to hear that, Jinal. Ayush, you also are coming from a manufacturing industry. Now, a couple of questions I have for you. In terms of a capacity that you were having, production capacity that you were having pre-COVID, and what is it that you have now? If you can give us insight on that. And also, if you can let us know the products which you are manufacturing, how are you trying to bring in efficiency in those products which are being supplied to construction industry? And do you see that there is a definitely change in a customer's requirement for sourcing the materials locally?
First of all, thanks for having Cera Sanitaryware on your show. We have the single largest plant in Mehsana district of 10,000 pieces of sanitary ware per day and 7,500 pieces of faucet ware per day. So we restarted the plant on 5th May. And the SOPs, the revised SOPs that were implemented was for one shift of 12 hours. And soon in June, that it became 2 shifts of 12 hours. And then from July onward, it became the regular 3 shifts of 8 hours each. The entire 1,800 permanent labor force was fully absorbed by June end. And we are back to producing about 80-85% of our pre-COVID and YOY comparison from last year. So May would have about 55-60% of last year's sales, June about 75-80%, and July about 95%. But the nature of demand has changed. There's a lot of demand for touch-free sensor-based products. There's a lot of demand for sanitary ware products which are anti-bacteria coated, antimicrobial treated. And of course, you see the overall cost of ownership has become very important for developers. So the cost of ownership includes the warranty mechanism. The shift in the markets from not organized to organized over the last 5-7 years is a reason, because this warranty mechanism, let's say in the faucet where we have about a 15-year warranty mechanism, the only one in the country to do so. And in sanitary where we have a 10-year warranty mechanism. And this is backed up by 250 people, the after-sales service team, and consumer can contact the company through call center, through app, through a dealer. So the bulk of the demand that is resurfaced post reopening has been from national level developers who've been very organized, who adopted best in class project management techniques, and who want their sites up and running very fast. So we work very closely with these developers. We are saying, don't treat us like a vendor, like a supplier. Treat us like a partner. We will have localized warehousing. We have 19 localized warehousing across the country. We are a maximum of 3 to 5 hours away from any site of our customers. So in Bombay, we have in Bhiwandi, in Gujarat, we have multiple locations. We are 3 to 5 hours away from your site. Don't order full trucks of 400 pieces. And that inventory is lying at the developer site for 2 months and 3 months while construction is being carried out. Let that inventory lie in our warehouse. And we are happy to send 4-wheelers to your site thrice a day with 5 pieces, 10 pieces, 20 pieces. The billing cycle will also become shorter. The billing cycle will become smaller. And your cash flow management will only benefit. So for a company like Cera, a lot of possibilities exist. We can integrate very well into your ERP. We can do your just-in-time project management, inventory management. There are a lot of tools available. And national developers have grasped this. So national developers are understanding that a consolidation amongst them is underway. And the way they will increase scale, the way they will use big data, the way they will use AI tools going forward, they will bring down their cost and project management timeframes. So we are quite happy to partner in these activities.
Right. Thanks, Ayush. Yes, Samir, you're saying something.
Hi, Adil. Ayush, and I had a question or probably a suggestion for you. Is over the last few years, we have seen a lot of, I think so, I honestly feel that real estate is no more a product industry, it's a service industry.
Yes.
And post RERA, we have both become partners in what we do, because you have to guarantee and warranty your products. And 50% of the product is the implementation or the installation at site. And so that is why I've been urging all suppliers that, essentially of finished products at least, can't they do more of service contracts than just supplying products? That is where the true value will come in. I mean, now, for example, most paint companies, I remember 15 years ago, they would supply us just cans of paint. And today they're very happy taking on painted contracts where they just give you a per square feet rate and then guarantee you a dry film thickness of certain mm, and the project is warranted. I feel a lot of the manufacturers will have to start doing these. Why can't there be a contract for per square foot floor instead of just buying tiles? Why can't there be a contract of fitted bathrooms? Because, I mean, you have more at stake to protect that. And I can understand it's not possible for every product or every vendor, but shouldn't that be a trend that we should look at to safeguard your product, to give better warranties and guarantees to your products?
See, we are quite happy to partner with plumbing contractors in the case of sanitary ware and faucetware. And these are plumbing contractors, which are also very large companies, which have developed a lot of capabilities. Mm. And, the plumbing contractor has also helped us in specifying specs and distance from the wall, piping, all of that at the start of the project. So there are no surprises midway during the project. So we are very happy in going down that route. And I'm telling you, national developers have understood this very well, which is why they are being able to drive down costs, because they crunch everybody's time.
So manufacturing industry should take a note of their clients' requirements here, that clients are now not just demanding the product, but the installation and probably warranties also, which can come in with the installations. So that, and definitely that would help developers when they are committing to their clients through RERA. Those commitments also can be fulfilled well. The manufacturing industry can take care of these as a requirement.
See, Anil, one more factor has been the cost of maintenance. So for example, we brought down a traditional full flush of 6 liters to 3.6, 3.8 liters. A half flush of 4 liters has been brought down to 2.5 liters. So developers are telling the homeowners that your maintenance charges with this kind of product will be very low. Water consumption will be low, etc. So communicating those things to a homeowner makes a huge difference in ultimately the choice of the product.
Sure. Thanks, Ayush. Now my question is to Parth and Samir. Going forward, do you, at an organization level, would you be making any changes in the way you are currently procuring contracts and materials? Would you be looking at more locally sourced materials, or you would continue procuring materials from abroad like you were earlier probably doing? Parth, you can go first.
Yeah, as far as Gujarat construction industry is concerned, that I feel that there are no so many materials and services that we need to import from the outer side. All things are locally available. But even the companies from which we are ordering the material, like as Ayush Bhai is also there, so they have so many materials which has to be imported from the outer side. So as far as the direct purchase is concerned, we are not we don't have any problem with that. But what I feel that we have now will have to be more organized, and we'll have to do some time management too. And like said, just after the lockdown, we placed all the orders to Cera and Jacquard. just to let them know that even after 6 months we need these products. So even they also know that the builder is asking for this many materials and this particular time. So they also going to be deliver it on time. There can be some time issues like for 5-10 days or 10-15 days that can be managed, but if it goes way beyond, then we'll have to problem with the delivery of the product. So even as far as Gujarat is concerned, we are taking 3 years in RERA, but we are managing project completion in almost 2 to 2.5 years. So that's not an issue, but we have to be like what he said. We need to be partners rather than just suppliers or services provider.
Okay, thanks, Par. Samir, your views on this?
Yeah, so I totally agree with what.
Do you see any change in the way you are procuring material and equipments?
No, honestly, I don't. I agree with what Path is saying, and we have not been dependent. Real estate in India, I think, has not been dependent too much on imports, other than probably a few high-tech items or probably furniture or something which you are trying to do for a large hotel or something. You typically do not have to import much. So I don't think we have been dependent. Real estate has been pretty fortunate in that sense. But the main factor also now, where at least in Savvy now we do not do that, is because we are very conscious of the carbon footprint. We are very conscious of the sustainability factor, and all our projects are certified green. So we do not have the luxury of importing, or even we try and do it as local as we can. We try and procure material locally that we can. So that is also something that I can see a lot of companies now being very, very conscious about. And also as the building rating becomes more and more, green rating becomes more and more popular, and as consumers see the advantage and create more demand for that, I don't see that being a big problem in the coming years where we have to change our strategy or rather worry about importing anything typically, other than, like I said, few high-tech components. So I don't see that being a major problem. The only strategy, like I'd mentioned before, Anil, that we will look at probably changing is, like I said, also what I think it was Ayush who mentioned, that we want to place smaller orders, get them in time, just in time for installation, so that our payment cycles are leaner and they're quicker, and we don't have too much stock sitting at site. So that we will have to do. Our project management and procurement strategy will have to become definitely far more efficient than we used to, because we will be working on very tight payment cycles and very tight recoveries also. So that is the only thing that I see changing in the near future, but not too much dependence on imports at all.
Right. Thanks, Samir.
I think, Anil, I'd like to go on this.
Yeah, sure, Neha. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I also echo the same thing what both the speakers have said about it. As far as Shapoorji Pallonji Real Estate Division is concerned, we are absolutely no dependency on anything coming from the imported basket with respect to any of the things. Like 4-5 years back, we ventured out, we saw everything, and I think it was not worth taking a risk. Tiles was anyways out of question because of the anti-dumping duty, and moreover the guarantee for the breakage, shade variation, everything is there. At least here the Indian companies are taking complete responsibility of shade variation, and any damage is being replaced. So that is one aspect. The only dependability to certain extent is for the elevator company, where I think up to 3 meters per second, all MNCs are manufacturing, having their factories in India. So there is absolutely no dependency. Beyond that, they are getting either it from China, from Thailand, or from other countries. But I think that is a particular their business model. So that we have nothing to worry about that. Then even for HVAC, everything, I think all the companies are manufacturing within the country. Electricals is also not an issue. So if you consider all the components which goes into a real estate development project, I think there is hardly anything, or I would say there is some dependency slightly with respect to the chemical waterproofing compounds and concrete this thing additives. But I think that is a very minuscule amount, and that should not make a big impact. And that also local manufacturers are easily available. It's only the cost competitiveness for which Chinese products are being preferred. But I think now with the this thing Atma Nirbhar Bharat and Vocal for Local, I think it is time that whatever little is also left has to be pushed out, and we need to stand completely on this. I think the one of the reasons why Make in India has not pushed, because there was a small window of China open. Now with moving out, I think it will pave doors for all other manufacturers within the country, and it will be a blessing in disguise, in fact, for the
Sure,
India.
Nirav, sure. So,
Thank you.
Jinal, this Atmanirbhar Bharat push that is coming, do you think our manufacturing industry is geared up for this likely surge in demand that you would be seeing in the construction industry products?
Definitely. I believe, there is to be, this is an opportunity. Usually, we usually cry, which is chicken or the egg. We
Yes.
usually believe that we get the opportunity and then we set up the infrastructure. Or either we, it is, or the client is always opting for to see the infrastructure and then place the order. So it was always chicken or the egg, whether we have to have infrastructure first or whether we get the business first. But now these days, yes, we are sure of getting this opportunity, keeping this China situation into consideration, and there is a lot of demand. We even have orders for exports, which is a very astonishing thing. Like people who are residing out of India, or they may be part of NRGs somewhere in the world, they who were importing stuff for hotel furniture, kitchens from China, are now looking for products which are from India. And yes, there are a lot of other units in India, small and medium type units. Previously, only handicraft was exported from India, but now conventional, hotel furniture, motel furniture, a lot of things are being exported, and India itself has got a huge demand. Manufacturers might not be even, in a position to suffice this demand if everything is procured locally, and I think it should take at least 6 months for them to gear up for the whole thing. But yes, India can do that, and we are absolutely geared up. We ourselves are doubling our capacity. Of course, it has nothing to do with this China thing. We planned our expansion in January, and we are keeping up with that. And by October, mid-October, we'll be doubling our capacity per day production. And I think it is
Great.
going to help us. Yes.
Right. Thanks, Gina. Ayush, your views on this about the Indian industry gearing up for in-house demand as well as probably getting geared up for export to other countries as well. So how are we going to be looking at this opportunity?
For Cera Sanitaryware, the option to build capabilities, that question came about 5-7 years ago. And from a traditionally very manual process, a lot of automation processes were built up in that period at our manufacturing facilities, both for sanitary ware and for faucet ware. So the traditional ways of manufacturing are no more relevant, both in terms of quality, standardization, and the design that the customer expects. So pressure casting, then robotic glazing, these are new technologies which are all implemented at the shop floor. And that's why the factory is now producing 10,000 pieces per day, the largest in a single location in the country. A lot of these products are now being exported to more than 15-20 countries across the world. And we have always encouraged this Make in India certification or country of origin certification. So we have talked about this for the last many years. We encourage the renewed focus towards Make in India. And we feel that once the groundswell comes from the consumers and developers, that companies like us will not only benefit, but even the consumer will benefit.
Sure, Ayush, noted. Samir, Samir, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So with the COVID times, we have seen that there is a large focus on overall health of a occupier. I would say health is given a due focus now, which was required. Now, with that, in your projects, how are you trying to bring in sustainability and well factors in your projects? Is that the focus there now, or it is something that is coming in next projects?
So Anil, we have been at Savvy, we have been committed to sustainable development for the past 15 years. Fortunately, I shouldn't say fortunately because COVID was not a fortunate scenario to be in, but what has happened now is that people are realizing the value suddenly post-COVID. We have been monitoring all our buildings, and the number of cases in buildings which are green buildings, which have a better, healthier air quality index in the building, have had much lower cases. And of course, then every precaution that you need to take for in this post-COVID scenario is being taken in all our projects across the board. But what I've seen really is that there is a renewed interest for people, for developers, as well as from the consumer viewpoint, to get building as green certified. Earlier, we used to have only the multinationals which had a mandate to go for certified green buildings. And whether it is IGBC, Griha, whether it is WELL rating, whether it is EDGE, whatever format, but there was a mandate for most multinationals that came into the country to get into a green certified building. Now there's a huge surge in demand for well rated or for healthier buildings, and there has been a tremendous amount of interest from the consumer, especially the younger consumer, even the children, who are now aware of what is the advantages of being in a green building or a healthier building. So that is becoming a huge factor, and I'm really glad that we have been committed to it. But we also have a small consultant business that we do for green consultancy, and there we have seen a tremendous amount of increase in inquiries. The other thing that has changed is, like I said, the demand is there, but also green buildings have become much cheaper to not only build but to operate. The life cycle costs of a green building is sometimes as much as 20 to 30% or even 40% cheaper than operating a conventional building. And that translates straight away into a per square feet saving. For example, if you were leasing an office in one of our buildings in Ahmedabad, Shapat 5, for example, you would save at least 4 to 5 rupees a square feet. On a rental of 50 rupees, that's a 10% saving on your rental. So those kind of savings in terms of rupee cost is huge. And that is again what is driving the impact of sustainability development. So I think it's something that has been there for the longest time. It is mandated by the government. The environmental impact assessment that you do is something, if you actually follow to the code, you are getting a gold certified building anyway. So the government has been actually far more proactive than the consumer or the developer has been in terms of sustainable development. And post-COVID, I think it is becoming extremely important how your building is lit, how it is ventilated, what is the kind of air quality that you have, what are the kind of protocols that you've implemented, what is the kind of contact points that you have in the building to get to your office or to get to your residence. Those factors will become extremely important in the coming days. And you will have
Samir,
to redesign.
Samir, we are running short of time. There is one last question.
I'm sorry,
that I would
I'm
like
very passionate about this, so
I do understand. I do understand, Samir. So I'll take up this last question. Now, this is going to go to you, Parth, as well as to Nirav. Now, in coming times, we see that the projects sizes are becoming bigger, project durations are coming smaller. There are a lot of challenges those are there in terms of probably availability of required workforce. So do you see that more of technology and mechanization coming into construction industry in times ahead? Samir?
Oh, is that for me?
Yes, Samir.
So I think I addressed that earlier also, that I don't see real estate suddenly becoming a very high-tech or a very automized industry, because we are, there can be incremental advantages in terms of the formwork or the kind of scaffolding that we use and things like that, or cranes and stuff like that. I don't see, there is a lot of good technology solutions in terms of precast, either panels, beams, precast floors. Those are the kind of things that are available. But again, the economies of scale are not there, because you have to have a substantially large project to be able to implement any of these. And also labor still in India is very easily available and is far more affordable to replace it with high-tech solutions. So honestly speaking, Anil, I do not see real estate changing to suddenly into a lot more consumption of precast or pre-molded solutions. I don't see that happening very quickly.
Okay, right. Noted,
In
Sunil.
fact, Samir, we had a very interesting poll also, which we ran while the discussion was going on, and we asked our viewers, if the supply has become normal now in Gujarat specifically. 40% said no, it has, in fact, only 40% said yes, that it is normal. The supply of materials is normal. Majority says that it's still not normal. Procuring materials is a challenge, and cost of projects. 74% said that the cost of project is going to increase because of the cost of materials becoming more. So any government strategies, a question has come to us, any of the panelists you would like to take, government strategies, can government do something about this, the supply and the cost of materials?
Yeah, I think I like to take this as far as material, not with respect to COVID only. I think more important, I would like to say that we at Builder Association of India have been regularly trying to put up a proposal to bring in a cement regulatory authority, because you have so many other watchdogs for other industries, but there is nothing for the real estate. Not
That's
only
right,
real estate, for the entire construction.
Correct. Ayush, you would like to say something on this? You are part of the industry.
LEED certification has become very important for developers. But do vendors carry out those same best practices? Are they using coal? Are they using natural gas? Are they using non-conventional energy? So we are willing to certify that our products were made 100% in either solar, wind, and natural gas. No use of coal and no use of conventional electricity. So you have to take one step back in the auditing process to see if your vendors are also following all the green norms.
Gina, your
Ayush, just
views
to
on
add to
this?
that point,
Yes, Samir. Yeah.
just to add to that point, Ayush, we have at the Indian Green Building Council, we are doing Green Pro certification, and you will be aware that using Green Pro certified products gets you additional points for developers also. So that is becoming extremely popular also. So that is a step in the right direction. Just to update you.
Gina, your last views before we go on to the next session. Yeah.
So, that is something you are true, but we have been, producing FSC certified products. When we use wood, it is an FSC certified product, and we ourselves are a company which is an FSC certified, and we can offer products which are, such, but to be, on the irony is like none of the developers are asking for such products. It is a very few things. I think the awareness or the government's, inclination or some, motivation, I would say, or incentivize it by some of the other ways which the government needs to do to motivate developers to use green products. And of course, using such green products is an expensive affair. I don't know whether it's actually genuinely expensive, but yes, all the suppliers who are supplying material to us are charging premium if it is an FSC certified product. So,
okay. So the cost of the product is what you feel is a hindrance, but as probably Samir would agree that it's the ROI on that product probably is beneficial, and in the long run the green products are going to be more efficient. Probably capital value is more.
The question is capex or opex.
Correct.
Developer is always conscious about the capex.
Correct, but we have now.
Gina, we will have a separate debate for this.
Yes, part here the young developer.
It is not expensive.
Yeah. So
I think government should also have a policy or authority level or a corporation level.
I think West Bengal has a policy where the developers are specifically asking and they are paying us premium for that, but none of them in Gujarat. So maybe the government does not have such policies over here.
Again, it comes to a product, which kind of product we are making. So they're also based. So, but yes, I can say that for every project, there has to be some policy from the government that this kind of product should be available and should be used in every project, no matter what. There may be some cost, but capex is there, but opex is not there. It is a slight lower side. So even in so many products are there in green building, which need to be used when you are certifying a green building. And some of the products are very not in more in cost. So that can be used in each and every product, and that is to be compulsory by the authority. That every builder has to use that. It is good for our city also. It's good for our future.
So loud and clear, we hear it from our speakers, from both the manufacturers and the users, the real estate developers, that it has to be value for money. CapEx and OpEx both have to be balanced, and government has to step in to make the supply chain come back to normal, and probably even the cost would definitely will come down along with that. So before we close this session, we'll have a group picture of the panel. So would like everyone to look into the camera so that our team can take a nice capture of the entire panel. And thank you, Mr. Anil Haldipur, for conducting this session and getting the best views from our speakers and having this very informative session. In fact, we have a lot of questions which we will not be able to take up because of the time, and we have to go in the next session. But I will be sharing it on the group and with the speakers individually for their answers to those queries. Thank you so much.
Sure,
Thank you.
Sapna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Siva.
everyone.
Thank you, Anil, for
Thank you, everybody.
conducting
Thank
this.
you.